2019's Metallica. With 9 Grammy Awards and 14 nominations, 38 concert tours worldwide, and 11 studio albums that span 4 decades, the Titans of Thrash remain the standard by which all other metal is measured. We begin with a 1984 classic from their second album, For Whom the Bell Tolls, followed by the 1992 tour anthem, Wherever I May Roam. And then, let's turn down the house and light up the stage for the Auburn University Marching Band and their show, Metallica.
This Sunday evening once again, and that means it's time for another live recording of the Auburn Experience podcast, the main show of everything we do here at E2C Network. So much to talk about on this show. Certainly we'll dive into all the Auburn news, Auburn potpourri stuff, and 2 major topics coming up for you in episode 111. Let's get into it all right now. David Housel described it best. We are living the whole of the Auburn experience. You can quantify it, you can qualify it through a variety of methods, time, people, places, and things. But at its heart and at its core, the Auburn experience is all about Auburn sports, Auburn culture, and of course, Auburn family stuff. An easier way to say it, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. Thank you for joining us in what we're going to do in episode 111 of our flagship show podcast here at E2C Network. I'm your host, Kyle. Alongside me, as always, back for episode 111, my good friend and yours, Mr. Austin Scott. Welcome back and happy snow day to you, sir.
Yeah, happy snow week, more like it. War Eagle to everybody. War Eagle to you. What an eventful weekend, all the things on the plains this weekend. We got a lot to cover, a lot to talk about. You were here, I feel like, as much as I was this week.
I was I don't know what you would call it, a temporary resident, essentially, of the loveliest village on the plains for much longer than I thought I would have been. And we are going to spend a whole segment talking about it because a certain event brought me to town much earlier than I had already planned to be for what was going to be an epic weekend most of our time. But boy, oh boy, I mean, just a unique experience in the snow and the storm that hit the southeast for some of the most southern parts of the southeast this week. So we're going to talk about that real quickly. Speaking of eventful things, because we're not going to have a ton of time to talk about it, I'm just going to throw this in here at the very beginning. Shout out to Auburn Gymnastics. Got the chance to see them this weekend in their meet with Oregon State facing Jade Carey of a U.S. Olympic team. And a little bit of a controversial ending there. You were not able to attend with me, Austin, but being there, it kind of got at the end where it looked like they had given Oregon State the win. And Coach Graba took exception with that and promptly had it overturned because one of the things were not scored correctly. And I'm very thankful for that. So that kind of got the week had already been going, but the weekend of crazy Auburn stuff, Auburn sports stuff, got rolling with that for me at least.
Yeah, absolutely. We weren't able to make it a little bit of a late night flip for us to get there, but definitely cool to see a turnout. Not usually you see the U.S. Olympian competing against Auburn inside Neville Arena, but that was the case this time. We were watching on TV, and TV actually even went away. They don't stay for the whatchamacallit, the final announcing of the scores.
Yes.
So they had gone. And we watched, we're like, man, that's a bummer. And then we see on social media that we won. And it was really crazy. So pretty cool and really eventful night and big win for Auburn Gymnastics.
Big win for Auburn Gymnastics and a great way to start off the weekend. So many things in potpourri. We're actually going to, this 2 weeks in a row, I'm doing this to us, Austin. We're doing something that we should have discussed last week, but I failed to put it on there or at least get to it. We cannot miss an opportunity to talk about when one of our own becomes inducted into some type of Hall of Fame, receives an honor in some way. And of course, in college football, everybody wants to talk about that. If you know the name Greg Carr, obviously, you know your Auburn football knowledge and your Auburn football history. One of those that's probably a little bit deeper into the lore and the history of everything, not as readily available in most people's minds as such as like a Bo Jackson, a Camp Heisman's and things like that, but no less an important figure. Well, he was a couple weeks ago at this point, and probably by the time you're listening to this, inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame as an Auburn Tiger, making him the 9th Tiger for playing at Auburn inducted into the Hall of Fame. And then that also includes 4 coaches who have previously been in. So I guess in total, officially 13 Tigers. And we could even make some cases for people who kind of are really connected with us, such as Larry Blakeney, who was announced this time, that, I mean, maybe we claim Bo, after all, Bo Nix in such things. So why can't we claim Larry Blakeney? But the main point, congratulations to Greg Carr, and we continue to build ourselves in the College Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, really cool. Really, not comes to the forefront, like you said, in a lot of Auburn fans' minds, but an SEC champion, a first-team All-American, an absolute stud at linebacker back in the early 80s. So really cool to see him get that recognition. Even if we don't give that recognition very often, the fact that the College Football Hall of Fame and those that decide that viewed him as worthy to enter the Hall this year is really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I think, too, it's a couple different things with this nomination. He was known as a linebacker at Auburn, but they list him as a lineman there. So we kind of got into that debate about maybe he's that edge position, or what they kind of call it now. It seems like they go back and forth, throughout the years, what they debate, what position you fall into and things like that. But regardless of the position, the fact that you're in the College Football Hall of Fame speaks to the level of how effective you were as a Tiger and just overall in college football. So congratulations to Greg Carr. And when you go to the College Football Hall of Fame, you have another name to look for and learn about if you don't know him, but you should, because he's part of the Auburn family. Let's switch over to some basketball news. And no, we're not yet talking about that incredible, busy, controversial week. That's a preview of what's coming up. What I want to talk about is an announcement for upcoming schedules. Now, I don't think we have dates yet, right, Austin, for this, what I'm about to say?
I actually saw November 25th through 27th.
Okay. That maybe I missed that
one.
Nope.
I'm sorry. It was 2025, 2026, and 2027.
I was about to say, I think that's what you're missing.
But I did see something about dates, because there is a potential Iron Bowl on Iron Bowl Day with this term. So someone was bringing that up. So maybe there are dates out there, but not dates we play. but that is out there. So it's probably the venue is booked.
Yes,
but not specifics.
How about this? It may not be officially announced, the dates, but you can probably do your investigative work to figure out what it's going to be. Well, we haven't even mentioned it. So what are we talking about? Auburn men's basketball for the next 3 years will be part of what is becoming the major, and we've talked about Maui Invitational kind of holding this title, but looks like it might be heading in the direction of the next thing in major early season non-conference tournaments. Now, that non-conference is kind of loose there when you look at some of the names that are going to be included here. But Auburn will play in the Players Era Men's Basketball Championship for the next 3 years, 2025, 26, and 27. And they're calling it an in-season tournament combine international style of group play with championship matchups. So I will give you the list of teams in a second. Austin, your take and your just initial reaction when you heard this news this week.
It's a loaded list, and it's a loaded group of teams that have already agreed and been invited to play in this. It is the epitome of the new NIL era in college basketball. But it's going to be awesome. It's going to be super cool to see that many teams of high caliber competing against each other this early in the season. And for Auburn to be included and mentioned among those names is still something I don't think I'll get over. I really liked the quote from the events director, just saying having Auburn only further proves the legitimacy of this event, essentially. And to say that about Auburn basketball is just unbelievable, and only a credit to where this program is at now. So can't wait for that. The next few years is going to be really cool. And look, I mean, with the Vegas Bowl and the new stadium in Vegas, I feel like Vegas has been a place Auburn fans are trying to get to and go see the Tigers somewhere. So this might be your chance.
And let's be honest, a little bit more accessible than flying over the Pacific Ocean.
Absolutely.
To Maui. And I am probably always going to be most excited about the Maui Invitational just because it's so unique, the history there, things like that. But this is a really cool thing. So currently Auburn's the 17th team added to this list. I'm going to give it to you really fast here. Alabama, Creighton, Houston, Notre Dame, Oregon, Rutgers, San Diego State, Texas A&M. If you notice, there's a few SEC teams in there. Baylor, Gonzaga are new ones as well. These are all new ones. Iowa State, Kansas, Michigan, St. Joseph's, St. John's, and Syracuse. How many of those names do you just right off the bat recognize? And Auburn is going to be among them for the next 3 years.
Yeah, it's huge, and it is. It's hard for me. I love Auburn. I love Auburn basketball. They are the best team in the country this year. It still kind of feels like we're not even supposed to be in that mix, right? Like, because just the history of it. But it's very cool. It will be an incredible opportunity. You will hear Bruce Pearl say many times, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It'll be an incredible opportunity for the program and the university.
It is going to be an incredible way to spend the next 3 years, Auburn in Vegas, with some of the best, if not the best, in those early season tournaments during quote unquote non-conference play, even though some of your conference foes. That'll be weird that you could potentially, I would assume, play some of your conference foes. A little early test before it officially starts in SEC play those years. So we'll look forward to that in the coming years and talk more about it as more gets announced. Another announcement this week is for the football side of things. Certainly there's the junior day aspect that was happening. We don't really have a lot of information to go off of that other than it happened, but some other things are still getting figured out. That being namely, the rest of the staff for football. We've talked in previous episodes, and you should go listen to those episodes / see the clips that we put out talking about Rock Bellatoni being added, and many others that kind of have been shuffled around. And certainly the special teams area with Tanner Burns leaving was going to be one area that had to still be figured out, whether it was going to be applied to somebody / bring someone in. As time went on this week, it became more apparent that we were going to bring someone in, and ironically enough, brings them over from the team that Rock was at. Chad Lunsford is a returner too, will be coming back to Auburn to be the essentially over special teams. His full title would be special teams coordinator, I believe is what it's listed at currently. So your thoughts on him returning, and I guess the final question in that I have for you, are we done?
Yeah. I thought that Auburn would add a special teams coach of some sort, just because of it. It didn't seem like anyone had full control over that just yet. I know we talked about last week, Rock has had experience and has done well before. But, with the different changes in how many coaches you can have these days, right, it looks like Auburn could take that opportunity if they need it. Bringing back Chad Lunsford to Auburn is really awesome. A guy who's been a head coach, so you always love head coaching experience on your team to handle all the other things outside of coaching, but also to have someone who has a very rich history and successful history in special teams is even better. Don't think that's a secret to say it was a little bit of a struggle this year for Auburn football. So to see hopefully some improvement through Chad Lunsford's coaching would be very awesome. So we'll see how it goes. It looks like, I think the staff is probably full now, barring any other changes. There can always be changes, right? But I think you're probably looking at the roster they'd like to have as it's set right now.
Certainly. And it's nice to always have someone return. And I get, folks, some of you start screaming anytime you hear this brought up. It's like, just because they're Auburn people doesn't mean they're the right choice. And that's fair. And it's a fair point. But it does make it kind of nice when people that are familiar with Auburn are coming into the fold, if they're deserving to take that role. And so to me, one of the best, I forget which coach said it, but it's people who know how to sell Auburn are people who have been here before. And that's one of the biggest things, is Auburn has so much to sell itself on. And so when you couple that with someone that knows what they're talking about and didn't just arrive here, Chad Lunsford obviously falls in that as a former player personnel and director of recruiting for Auburn. Yeah. So big pickup. The staff may be complete. At least special teams for now is taken care of. And we're going to look forward to seeing how he builds out the future in that position for Auburn football. As a final note for us tonight in Auburn Potpourri, I do want to mention, hey, folks, it's almost diamond season. And what I mean by that, not y'all need to go buy rings for your special ladies out there or yourselves. But baseball,
ring by spring is a real thing. So some of you might need to.
Oddly enough, at Sanford University, it is like a weird cult-like thing. I found out, having two brothers that graduated from there, I kind of like ran that off. I was like, I didn't run into that at Auburn a whole lot. I mean, maybe somewhat, right? It's a big university, so there's some of that. But at Sanford, it's like a cult. If you don't get a ring by spring, you're somehow like weird or something like that. It's like a dating show, I guess. I don't know. I didn't think we were going to get into that on an Auburn show this week, but here we are. What we do want to talk about, though, is baseball and softball have got going with their practices. And I got a chance to go for a few minutes this week and see baseball start off, and off to a great start. Really nothing major to take away from practices right now, but it was great to see them out there and hear from Coach. We put out his press conference if you want to listen to him talk about what he expects this season. That's on YouTube for you. What I do want to mention is with that starting, they usually do this. They announce, hey, tickets are on sale, not just the season tickets, which have been out there, but now you can, the general public. And so I'm going to give these to you real quick for your information out there. You're going to have non-conference tickets and conference tickets, but then there's going to be 2 categories in each of those: premium and like regular ones. Premium ones would be obviously bigger games and conference play like Vanderbilt, Alabama, LSU. And then Georgia Tech would be like the only premium that's currently listed non-conference matchup. So those ticket prices are going to be varying. Non-conference games are going to be, I'm going to just give you the general admission, not reserve tickets. We're just going to go general admission. 15 for general admission for non-conference. Premium non-conference still is going to be 15, if I'm looking at that correctly. General admission ticket for conference is 18, and then the premium conference is 20. So that'll get you in the game. There are other options for reserve tickets. There are options that you can look at in terms of special things that Rhett Hobart and Paris Buchanan and all of them continue to put together in special experiences. I'm going to save that topic. Maybe we're going to talk about for next week, but this starts to get us going, Austin. You know, practice is in the air. The tickets are on sale. We're going to be hearing the ping of aluminum on what's the, is it cowhide? What's a baseball made of?
Sure. I have no idea.
We're going to hear the ping of the swing here very soon.
There you go.
Officially. And baseball is just around the corner.
Well, if you were on campus at all this week, it was hard not to notice the changes to Plainsman Park. Things are looking really close to being finished there. It looks really pretty. So it's all coming soon. We'll have to dive deep into all that. We love to talk construction here.
Yes.
And so we'll have to talk deep into how things are looking. I'd love to hear Kyle's take on it from being inside the park. And so we'll see, but it's coming. I think we're 22 days, yes, something around there.
Yep. Great segue. We'll have a video out this week, most likely, with an update on the construction, which is starting to kind of wind down and kind of hard to notice huge changes, but it's starting to complete a little bit. And as a reminder, if you ever want to buy tickets, you can support us by buying them through SeatGeek, which is the official partner of Auburn Athletics, by the way. Use the code E2C Network, and they'll get you, I think it's the 20, it's something off. I forget what it is. I'm doing a bad job of selling it for your first time order, but definitely will take care of some of those fees and taxes for you. So check that out if you're buying any tickets for Auburn baseball. And certainly we'll be talking about them more in the season coming up. That's going to do it for Auburn Potpourri. We have still plenty to talk about coming up in our major topic segments. But first, let me talk to you about our friends at Magic Mind. And the thing that I've been talking to you a lot about the last couple of weeks, especially as we've gotten into this new year, is the concept of mental wealth. And some of you, I'm sure, are like, what are you even talking about, Kyle? Well, some people are going to define that as a few different things: how you manage some elements of your daily life, your sleep, your diet, your exercise, stress. Content creators have stress, and we can try our best to balance some of these things sometimes, but you might need a little something extra. So the key is to find the right thing to help you along the way. That's where we come in talking about our friends at Magic Mind with their mental performance shot that we've discussed before, and we're going to be discussing today, especially, but there's something extra today too that make a difference for me and for others, helping them become more productive throughout the day, but also need to be productive by getting good sleep. So now Magic Mind has got their sleep elixir. You can find, I've found, and others have found as well, that it helps settle you down from a day of regular content creating for me, which can get very tired and late nights and all that stuff. So needing to stay a little bit more regular, that's helping out. Yet again, they've done it more focus and function throughout the day and the night for you to wind down from that focus and function in their sleep elixir. Just as a reminder, their performance shot is not a replacement for your daily caffeine or coffee. In fact, a lot of people will take it alongside their coffee. The ingredients are built to help enhance the effects of that coffee. That sleep elixir is going to help wind you down a little bit faster, a little bit more controlled from a very busy day of focus, hopefully using Magic Mind products. And you can combine those now in a first-time 24-hour bundle for focus and sleep, which is out now. Get that bundle, and you get a 45% off of it with our link, magicmind.com/theauburnjan. That is TheAuburnJan, the Auburn Jan. If you're convinced, if you want to give it a try, you need to get yourself some mental wealth, some mental investment better resilience for the 2025 year as we get started here. Use that link, magicmind.com/theauburnjan. First major topic this evening, we need to discuss a little bit of basketball, as we have done so often, and we'll continue to do the rest of the week. Or not the rest of the week, the rest of the season. This was a busy week, Austin. It was
Just a little bit.
And quite frankly, it changed a lot for us this week. I had a much different perspective of how things were going to go, or at least the idea of how I thought things were going to go schedule-wise. And boy, oh boy, did certain weather events, we'll talk about that in the next segment, alter those plans a little bit. But it didn't take away from the excitement that was going to be building towards Saturday. So two major things. So what we're going to discuss in this is certainly the big event that led up to the big game. We'll discuss that as well. And a little bit of controversy around it that certainly needs to be discussed and we've been alluding to on social media. Let's talk about the good stuff first. College game day came back to town, Austin, and boy, oh boy, was it a great time. You just told me pre-show that you snuck in there and didn't tell me you were there to hang out with me, which is it's ironic because when you show up to events in Neville Arena and crazy things happen, like losses, injuries, things like that. So
Losses haven't happened in quite some time. I just want to put that out there.
I had to work that one in there for you a little
5-0, people. 5-0.
That's
5-0.
Another preview to the second part of our conversation about basketball week. College game day came back to town for the 5th time in a row. In basically as many years. There was one year they were off for COVID, and boy, did it deliver again. I think this is a fair statement, Austin. Now that I know that you were there, you can at least speak to it. The biggest crowd ever, yeah. You think?
I thought you were going there. Yeah, I agree. I think that I've been to I think I've been to 2 of the other ones. One, I was in the student section with my brother, and the second one was just like this time. I was just observing from the concourse. And I think this one was the biggest. I don't know if I think it has to do with the magnitude of the game. It wasn't the game day wasn't the main attraction as much as it has been the last few years. Mm-hmm. The game and people wanting to be in town for all that it was the bigger ticket. And I think it always helps when we talked about this last week. It always helps when you can just open the doors and let people in for free for game day and then just clear it out. The timing of game day and the actual tip off helps that. I think that plays into it, but I thought it was great. A big crowd, which is what you want to see. It's still interesting to me because it's just 1 hour, right? And it's not the event that college game day for football is. It never will be. But they do a good enough job to keep it an hour that it's entertaining enough. But I think that people maybe coming for the first time lose a little bit of that energy that they would have for the college game day football just because they're taking it in for the first time. All that to say, definitely think it was the biggest crowd yet and always entertaining for just that short time.
Man, I don't even know where to begin with this one because people are surprised it's only an hour show, but I think I've been to a previous iteration where it was like 2 hours long and it just doesn't maintain for basketball. I think it's perfect. An hour show, it flies by, but it doesn't fly by too fast. And certainly they do a good job of like having segments with other shows that are leading to them coming in. And so there's that element that so I would say this, if you're coming to what's likely going to be a future appearance of College Game Day, it planned to be ready for 2 hours of them calling on you to get excited, to do things. And of course, the cheerleaders, the Tiger Paws, Obby is going to be there and so many other things, so many other appearances. So it's a fun time. The crew is even, not Jay Billis, but Jay Williams is like he did this last time, shooting basketballs with people and putting money out for people. And can I just call out fans and students? This was the worst year I have seen of us as a Auburn family representing our shooting skills.
I didn't see one.
I didn't see a single one go in. I think maybe like a little kid made one time or something like that.
Maybe we should have known then that it was going to be a bad shooting night in Neville Arena. But
that's a great point.
These people, like students, that's a really pretty rec center over there.
Yes,
Get in there.
Get in there
and get some shots up because that was rough.
It was rough, and the half court shot attempts were rough
just
too.
terrible.
Listen, we're so happy you got to go out there. I don't know the individual's name, and I'm glad that you got the shot at it. But my gosh, just the whole thing, the shooting prowess for the Auburn family.
Let's have a little tempo. I mean,
come on,
buddy, you only got 19 seconds.
Jay Williams literally was demonstrating to the guy what he needed to do and made it. Just not even.
He made it. Yeah, that's right.
And I get that the guy's a legend. He's a national championship winner, or at least a Final Four appearance guy, and at the NBA level. So I get it. I mean, he should be able to do it even in retirement, but it was a bad representation. Outside of that, the show was great. I think one of the biggest highlights was Stephen Pearl brought out his brand new newborn daughter, and obviously the granddaughter of Bruce Pearl. And boy, did he look so proud to show off her. It was a very sweet moment. I love seeing Bruce Pearl in those. Look, we all love Bruce Pearl for many reasons. Obviously, what he's done for Auburn basketball, but he comes across as such a genuine person, and these moments only build upon that. So it was a great thing to see them out there, and I'm sure Steven loved it just as much as Bruce did too. And I'm sure as you as a dad, you had to love that too.
Very sweet moment, very cool. I think Bruce was very surprised, but pretty cool moment. And that was one of the best parts of them joking back and forth with Bruce during that time. I think Bruce has such a great connection with a lot of those guys from his days working there, from being around so long, that it always feels very genuine when Bruce is out there with that panel. And that was definitely a moment that even further established that.
Yeah. Great show. Great showing by the fans. The players even came out and watched the show pretty much in full too. So it was a great day starting off with basketball. That's where we transitioned to the buildup, because the game wasn't even until 7:30 that night. Right. So a basically really late tip off by most standards. And so there's a lot of lag time there. You wonder, is the energy going to die off throughout the day? Would the students have their energy given other things that had happened and things like that? But the game gets going versus Tennessee. It's number 6 versus number 1. And you could just tell whether you were there, like certain people on the podcast.
Yes.
And others who were not, and listening to radio or watching TV, words were being expressed that this was one of the greatest atmospheres that Auburn basketball had ever had in Neville Arena. And that is saying something. So Austin was there. Let's just go ahead and talk about it.
Yep. I was there.
Auburn wins.
And we won.
We won 53-51. I will say that we had our worst shooting performance ever. Coincidence? I think not.
Don't even start with me. We won. There's all these people who like to get on me, especially after the post-game show with Kyle. I just pop in to see how it's going. They're already on me. Tennessee is an incredibly good defensive team. We knew that coming in. We all knew that coming in. It's been like that the last 5 years playing this team. Like I said last week, the goalposts keep moving. Everybody wants to complain about when Austin goes to a game, we're going to lose. Austin goes to a game, we're going to find the loss. Let me know what game to bet on, because Austin's going to be there. That's an L. Well, now I'm 5-0, and people are let's bring up injuries with Austin. Let's bring up shooting percentage with Austin. Let's bring up, I don't know, almost injuries with Austin. No, I'm tired of it, and we're 5-0, and I think that y'all should need to keep having me there, because it's working out. And I'm still not going to disclose. Now, I didn't know last week I was going to this game. This was a very, very generous birthday gift for me from my dad, and we got to go to a game together. But I will not disclose what other games I'm attending this season, because I don't want to hear about it for weeks on end. But as of right now, my track record is looking pretty good. So you should be optimistic about what games I'm at. That's all I'm going to say, Kyle. I've said my piece.
You said his piece. He came prepared. He had this ready to go because he's tired of it. But we're going to still let you have it no matter what. So you just know that's your lot in life for the rest of basketball season, and probably the rest of the time you're with us. So let's talk about the game. You certainly can give us some great perspectives there. Not a great shooting performance for Auburn or for Tennessee. However, by both teams, pretty solid defense. There's going to be discussions about refs and stuff like that, and there may be some validity to that. The other big story, other than the non-scoring, was the return of Janai Broome. Yes or no? Were you shocked that he ran out there and played as much as he did?
As much as he did, yes. Not shocked that he would play. I think piggybacking off game day, Bruce was pretty transparent by saying he thought he would play. It was just a matter of how much. I don't think anybody had 32 minutes on their bingo card.
Nope.
After and let's be honest, Janai did not look his usual self. He did not have the pep in his step and the bounce that he usually has. Coming off an ankle injury like that in just a couple weeks can do that to you. But to still go out there and put a double-double on an incredible defensive team, a top 6 team in the country, when your team needs you most, just unbelievable work by him. Just incredible atmosphere. I felt like truly, like Bruce said during game day, when he got in there, I think he wanted to play for his team regardless. When he got in there and felt the energy that was in Neville Arena for the biggest home game in program history, there was no shot I did not see him playing. I was very relieved that he played as much as he did because they needed him. But just an incredible performance by Auburn's best player and the best player in college basketball.
I think you have to. I get it. Cooper Flagg is great. He's going to be in the conversation. It's probably in the lead now since Janai's been out. That's not taking away from Cooper Flagg by saying that, but it's just the reality is that Janai was in the lead of that conversation until he went out. But the fact that he's not 100%, comes out, puts up a double-double in a night where nobody is shooting well and helps will his team to win. Let's point out he doesn't make the winning shot or the shot that puts Auburn ahead finally. But if he doesn't maintain balance on
the
wherewithal to find Miles Kelly in the corner, who knows what happens? It doesn't maybe give Auburn the momentum to maintain that lead and eventually win. What a great play by, we got to give credit to Miles Kelly. I mean, because just straight ice in his veins, just said, and I think Bruce said on the radio or something, or maybe it was the press conference I was watching, he said, or he was asked, did you think Miles was going to make things? Oh, I knew it was going to make it. And Miles knew it too. Like it was just so perfectly set up for him. And he's such an ace of a shooter. So what a great moment for Miles and Janai. Yes. Those two connected there in that very important moment. And that's what veterans do. So Auburn wins the game. Janai returns. Those are the biggest stories from that. Auburn will continue to be the number one team, even given that struggle to get this win. It's against one of the best in the nation. That would be enough this week, even if we didn't get the camp out and stuff like that, that was going to happen with the weather and things like that. I cannot think, how about this? Even without the camp out, this week, all that leading up with College Game Day met and exceeded expectations for me as an Auburn basketball fan, even not being there, because I know you had a great time, obviously.
It was incredible. I've been really fortunate enough to go to a lot of Auburn basketball games in this period of the Pearl era, right? And all have been exceptional. I really think that this is probably at the top of my list of games I've attended. Now I've been there when we've cut down nets in Neville Arena, but for this to be the ranked matchup that it was, the historic streak Auburn's on right now with College Game Day in attendance and it being packed out is just the atmosphere in it is hard to describe. It's the loudest I've heard it. The pop that would happen was just unbelievable. And so it is an incredible game in itself, but the atmosphere was exactly what all of ESPN has been bragging about with Neville Arena and all of what they were hyping it up to be and then some. And so for Auburn to be on the national stage and have that displayed and then it be everything it is and more couldn't have been better.
Well said, sir. Well said. What a great week. And it was still a great week. But the final thing we want to discuss in this segment is something that you and I have talked about privately a lot and something that's been discussed publicly a lot. Was probably the only negative and bad look of the weekend for Auburn. And that is certainly what happened with the student line section and some injuries and varying reports. I have personal anecdotal reports from people who are friends of and things like that. Not spoken to anybody directly that was injured, but certainly you probably heard the story that the line situation got a little out of hand and some injuries happened, and then some opinions were being shared from students that experienced it. And look, let me just say this right off at the top. For those students that were not part of the issue and were affected negatively by this, I don't want anybody to ever get hurt. So please, in any of our discussion here, do not hear us saying that and dismissing anything that happened injury wise, trauma wise, because I can imagine this it's kind of evolved into a mob mentality. I guess I should basically explain, Austin, what happened before we go further. What appears on the outside looking in, they had to cancel the camp out, which that's traditionally how you line up days in advance for big games like this, which the students love because of weather. It's the thing that was the right thing to do, as much as maybe I didn't even agree with it at the time. But guys, it was 22, 24 degrees. That's frostbite temperatures. And Auburn would get in trouble for allowing that to happen on their campus. So the solution was, can't let them camp out. We're going to tell everybody you cannot get in line until 6:30 the morning before college game day. And certainly you know what's going to happen. I was a college student. You were. Everybody gets excited. How early do you think you would have been there, Austin, to be honest?
4:30, if 4:30. Not earlier.
So
2 hours.
Hours early, people are going to start forming. And I showed up at 5:45 to get some images. There's a video out there that news station's picked up, by the way. So,
first one I saw.
Right, that went a little viral of what happened. There's no line to get into the line. And so a mob mentality kind of took over in the final minutes. And unfortunately, what it sounds like we can confirm from the official statement from Auburn and me actually speaking to students that were there and experienced it, that a smaller group within the large mob caused a bigger issue when they arrived shortly before people were going to be orderly filed in to this blocked off pathway. And they chose to push down and jump over and create a mob mentality so they could cut in front of everybody else. And of course, I'm not excusing everybody else that took part in it after that, but look, you're in it. You're just following the flow of people at this point. But what happened was, not only were people cut in line, and that's just wrong in and of itself, it caused some people to get either majorly injured, seriously injured. Reports are varying out there. It doesn't matter. Some people got injured, and that should not happen. That is horrendous, terrible. And that's where, first of all, we need to discuss. The problem started with the students that caused the problem. Am I saying anything incorrect on that?
No, couldn't agree more. I think that there was a valuable lesson learned by a lot of people involved where the actions of a few caused great effects for many.
Yes.
And that is a life lesson that you can translate to a lot of different areas. But on full display, the actions of a few who decided they were going to show up when they wanted to and start pushing and shoving and cause disorder and chaos.
Yep.
Led to people getting injured, led to people not being able to get in the game. I'm not saying those two things are equal, but they're both certainly aren't fair.
Right.
And for that to happen is immature. It's disrespectful to the people there who were trying to maintain some security, and it's disrespectful to your fellow man who the people were doing the right thing.
And let me say this: it's disrespectful to Auburn.
Absolutely,
just point blank.
Look, Auburn. No one wanted to see the camping go. Kyle said that. I agree with him. I was very upset that it didn't happen. I even thought for a minute, I said, maybe they should have just let the camping happen. But Auburn was trying to do
the right thing,
what they could to make sure that students were safe. And I know that sounds theatrical after what happened, but they were trying to do what they thought was safe by not letting kids sleep in what felt like teen-degree weather. And so I think that you're going to see the domino effect from these kids deciding to take matters in their own hands. And I don't know what's going to happen. I don't have any info on this. I'm just saying my prediction is you will end up seeing effects from this long term. I think you're going to see student lottery ticket. I think you will see ticket packages. And because of the organic nature that Auburn basketball has been able to have the last few years with campouts and long lines and excitement and things that have brought Auburn basketball and Auburn athletics good national attention, now those can be potentially taken away because of the actions of a few who decided they were going to be selfish in the moment. So it's
you
very
can't blame Auburn.
unfortunate. And I cannot find a blame for Auburn University right now. And I know that's where a lot of people want to go. And a lot of people want to put their comments under Auburn basketball's Instagram and how I can't believe you're not addressing this. I can't believe we're not talking about this. The fact I don't know. I can see the argument. Auburn should have had extra security there, should have had real law enforcement there. Let's just be honest and say that the ones hired are similar to the court stormings, field stormings. They're not going to be stopping the crowd once it gets going. But there was real law enforcement there as well.
There you go.
There was real Lee County, Auburn, City of Auburn law enforcement there. Now, I don't know if Auburn University can request 10 or 15 City of Auburn officers just to make sure 18 to 22-year-olds don't start a mob. Mm-hmm. But let's look back in that and look inner. At some point, we need to expect these young adults, because that's what we're trying to train them to be,
right,
to act like young adults. And this was not the case. And it's sad. It's unfortunate. But the sole blame here has to be put on those individuals who caused this mess and who are going to cause negative effects for people in the long run. And I think that's exactly what you're going to see. I hope, based on their statement, Auburn is trying to find out who those individuals were and how you change that. But Kyle, there's big games left to play at Auburn's campus inside Neville Arena this season. Yep. There will be changes. I would feel shocked if they're allowed to do this again. Mm-hmm. There will be changes, and it's going to be unfortunate because of the actions of a few.
So remember that, folks, when you're saying these things, when you're being reactionary, you're not necessarily the emotions of this situation and what people went through and saw, and vicariously, because there's parents, of students knowing that their kids were in amongst all this. Those are valid, but facts are valid too. And so we need to keep it where it needed to be. The problem started with the young adults. And we talk about this a lot in football, Austin, the concept of the coach can do everything right, but the player must still go and execute it. Auburn University could have done everything right in this situation, and one screw up can make the whole thing go awry. And there's an element of that, in my opinion, after talking to several students, hearing different perspectives and witnessing some of the beginnings of that, not the actual bad parts, and knowing kind of the security is there, that was there. And this final thing I was saying, we've got to move on, but this is an important topic that you and I wanted to discuss to have a well-rounded conversation here. We're trying to keep the accountability here where it began with the students, but let me just look right here in the camera. I know we got people on Facebook, and some of y'all were the worst offenders of this. Some of y'all, the things that you were saying, ill-informed, disgusting, and you need to think before you post in comments and everything. And you may say, what does it matter? It does. One action matters, folks. You are building a story that's incorrectly putting things out there prematurely. So all of this talk of how dare Auburn, this is a shame of it. You can't say that without in the moment, without actually letting things play out, letting investigations be done and see what happened. My guess is this: Auburn's going to find things that they should have done better, and they will, because their responsibility and their role is to take care of these kids and create the best environment possible for athletics, for academics, for student life. And they will take the responsibility. I have faith in that. Some of you may not, and that's fine. I can't convince you of that. But the most thing I was disgusted with this week was, yes, these students that caused this issue, but the behavior of people online and people reacting, commenting before they actually got the information. And just because you heard someone say this, say that, say this, say that, doesn't make it true. Get the facts, then have your discussions. If I said enough or if I said too much.
I think we covered it. You and I talked before about this, and that we were pretty in line step together on it. It's a sad, unfortunate situation all around. And I hope that we can communicate more. Most of all, I'm very sad that people got injured. That should not happen. And those are certainly even bigger effects of the actions of a few. And I hope that there's a way they're held accountable. But I think that unfortunately the damage has been done, and we'll see changes to how Auburn basketball and student ticketing it works. But we'll see.
What a long segment that was to cover all of the Auburn basketball week, but certainly it was important. So let's move into our final segment, changing the vibes a little bit and getting back to the happy. This week was going to be great no matter what, whether certain events had to change or things like that. But when you throw in what has been probably the best snowstorm to hit the deep South, at least I'm talking about the deep, deep South, and it's going to be in Auburn, or what was already going to be a big week for the university, for the fans. You couldn't have asked for anything better. Did you think, Austin, that this snowstorm was going to be as good, in my opinion, as it ended up being for Auburn?
It was looking hairy there for a minute. I was.
You were frustrated.
I was frustrated. I think it was Tuesday. Is Tuesday when it all started? Yeah, Tuesday.
It's so long ago.
I was looking out the window for a very long time throughout the morning and getting pretty pessimistic that it was not coming. It got to be, we put the boys down for their nap around noon and nothing had hit. And that maybe like 30 minutes later, it started falling. And once it started falling at my house, it started falling hard. I knew certain parts of Auburn were getting it before me, but once it started falling, it came, and it did not stop for most of the day. So no, I was pessimistic there for a little while. I did not expect, we've talked about before, I worked for a school in town. I did not expect to be out the entire week, and I was. So I was definitely surprised. But man, it led to some good times and some good memories.
It certainly did. And I am pleased to tell you all, and I think some of you already know this from content that was just all out there for y'all this week. I made it to Auburn for an epic snowstorm, and I could not be happier about it. Just in general, certainly I'm happy because it's very good for our content purposes and stuff like that. And so appreciative of all of y'all that viewed, liked, shared. We had some great numbers from reels and just photos and stuff. So again, I can't say that enough from me, for Austin, for everybody that helps out in time with E2C Network. Just thank you guys for supporting what we do. But I was originally going to arrive at Auburn or somewhere, wherever I need to get there, Wednesday evening. And then as the week progressed and got closer, I said, you know what? I might want to roll into Auburn before this thing hits, just in case it becomes something. So I arrive as soon as the flurries start, and they're little bitty things, and I'm just like, okay, this is kind of what I thought was going to happen. Just little bitty of stuff. Things that Austin was getting angry about on social media.
Yes.
I could feel you like
I was very upset.
And certainly it looked like for a few hours around the lunchtime hours when I arrived that it was going to kind of maintain. In fact, I started doing a live stream from the parking deck, the stadium deck, just like, this is all we're going to get. And no sooner do I finish my lunch that I had brought for myself and take that live stream down and start making my way back to downtown, thinking I'll just get some last shots. I'm sure there's people out there running around. It starts coming down, and I'm lucky. I found the last spot in downtown parking. I'm just going to fully admit it. Sorry, Auburn, Alabama, Auburn, the city. I paid for 1 hour of parking, and I left my car there, and nobody gave me. I don't think they could give me a ticket.
No.
So, and what ensued from that point was just a day of pure joy, amazement. We had people in the chat asking about inches that came down in snow. You're going to find varying reports. You know the official, Austin, for you guys?
I saw 2.2 from a local meteorologist. I took my own tape measure out there and tried it once the falling had stopped, and I got like 1.9 somewhere around there. So around that, which I think was about the projected total. It was just a matter of if it would stick, and sure enough.
Can we be honest? The way it was literally for us blizzarding, it felt like more though.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
There's some images and videos from places that people weren't supposed to be, Jordan Hare Stadium, that look very blizzard-like, and awesome pictures to see, by the way. Of course, the official accounts put it out and stuff like that. That's just, you will never, that just pains me to say, you'll never see that for a game, I'm sure. Maybe it's happened one time in the history, but so
playoff game, maybe you get the stars align, you get the right playoff game.
Hey, listen, the stars aligned this one time for this incredible snow at the beach situation that happened in the South.
Unbelievable.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
like, if we have any of our friends, I can't get enough of the pictures of snow on the beach or snow in New Orleans,
Yeah.
because that's just once in a generation type stuff. And
Yeah.
a friend of mine, a former youth pastor of mine, had got 10 inches at his house in Mobile.
That's
That's
crazy.
unbelievable.
This is the weird thing, because I always love when snow comes through and Auburn fans start sharing their Auburn snowmen. We've talked about this on previous episodes,
Yeah.
and other things that writing War Eagle or freeze warning in the snow and stuff like that. Literally, we got all the content you could want Auburn marketing team now for next year.
Right.
You literally don't have to CGI it. It's done. I mean, not even good luck. I mean, you're welcome from God for providing that for you all. They did every bit of work you could ever need for promos for next football season. But to see like people in the Panhandle of Florida, Auburn fans, and there's like
Crazy.
Auburn stuff, but the beaches in the background too. That's pretty wild. But let me go back to how many inches you said. I had the presence of mind once it stopped. I went walking through a few different areas, just trying to, gauge a little bit. I had some pretty thick boots on. I think in the thickest parts of it, Austin, it was over 3 inches.
Yeah, I believe it.
I think the official totals are going to be right under 2 at 2, maybe 2.5. But I truly believe that Auburn in the most undisturbed areas got 3 inches of snow, maybe plus some at that.
Yeah.
I love Sanford Lawn, and the memories and the pictures and the photos you can take there. There's nothing more awesome to me than watching students largely, but fans and residents show up together and just playing in the snow. Sometimes just standing there as the snowflakes are continuing to just blaze on in. Aubie comes to town and, just has a ball out there. So there's so much I could talk about it, and we don't have enough time to do so, but what a perfect day. Auburn in the snow.
It was crazy. I was really hoping for snow for my boys to be able to see it and play in it for the first time. The day it was falling, it was not a good day. They were not a fan of it falling and hitting their face. Next day, once we had some sunshine and getting to hang out and just enjoy it a little bit, was a little bit better. But just a crazy week to have snow like this. We ended up, we couldn't leave our house because our sunshine does not hit our street very often. And so we could not leave our house until Thursday. I used a snow shovel for the first time and got ice off my driveway just to get out. So no one's prepared for anything like this. But I mean, it was a lot of fun. I'm very glad I don't live somewhere where I have to deal with it a lot. I'm good for like a day and a half of snow, and then I'm ready for the warmth. But a really fun time. It's always special to see Auburn in that. They get it more frequently than New Orleans and Mobile and things like that, but still a rare sight to see, and a lot of fun. Like you said, it snowed when I was in college. It is still a top memory of my time at Auburn. We only got one day, but it was good. A one day, just so many people on campus. And I'm glad you got to see that on that many people on campus. Well, that reminds me of those times, because it just feels like one of those rare, kind of sentimental, where everybody's just out there doing the same thing. Everybody's just out there having fun.
Classes are off,
trying to make the most of it and just having a ball. And so that's very cool that happened again. And who knows, maybe it'll 7 more years, I guess, and maybe we'll get another one.
You need to all go watch the video that we put out. There's reels and stuff, certainly, but there's a long video on Facebook and YouTube kind of telling the story of the day. You literally get to watch it build to the moment of it blizzarding around, and some pretty funny antics with students that found a certain road leading down to the stadium, decided to make basically a ski resort over there, and shenanigans were had, and they were fun.
I don't doubt it.
They were fun shenanigans, so much so that some of it couldn't be aired because of the language, because they were crashing and things like that. But look, hey man, what a day. And I'm so thankful that I got to experience it in person. I'm so glad that you were not disappointed, Austin, because I was going to feel real bad. I was like, man, he's taking it harder than I would for having driven down here earlier for this.
And I wanted it so bad. And like I said, I'm not a huge fan of it, but I wanted my kids to be in it, and I wanted to, just see it and enjoy it. Since we've lived here, we haven't had it. But it's just when snow is there, when snow comes, everything looks white. Everything just looks perfect and pure. And it means a little bit more for those of us who have a certain faith, but to see pure snow and pure white is a good reminder for me. And it was good to see it in the loveliest village as well. So till next time.
Till next time, hopefully not too long in the next time, but it was beautiful to see Auburn, the city, the university, Jordan-Hare Stadium blanketed in white. Literally, a freeze warning happened on the plains. Thank you guys so much for tuning into a very long episode, 111, but there was so much to talk about this week. I know it's redundant. We say that all the time, but really there was this week. You can keep up with me on social media, on X at Kyle Loomis24. Where can they find you?
Yeah, on X, on Instagram, Austin G. Scott. There's plenty of snow pics out there. And my picture from me with my dad after the winning buzzer sounded when I was 5-0 on Auburn basketball games attended this year.
Never going to let it go, man. No matter what you do, you are going to be having that against you, and we'll continue to blame you for weird things that happen at Auburn basketball.
That's part of it.
That is part of being part of the Auburn experience. Thank you all for tuning in and listening. Till we talk to you again, War Eagle.
War Eagle.
All right, Austin's got to get out of here. I kept him way too long. Final thoughts from you, sir?
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Got to go back to work tomorrow after having a whole week off. So I did see I've ignored the majority of WT's comments tonight, but I did see him commenting my shirt, and my shirt is
so
awesome.
I'll move the mic away for a second. He said
we went orange and blue tonight, though. We do look good.
We didn't plan this, though. I wish you had told me, and I would have worn my Auburn Golf Championship shirt tonight, but alas, maybe we should talk or something before and coordinate these such things. There's something I was going to say to you, and now I have blanked on it, and I don't know what it is. So maybe I will text you.
WT's comments. I don't know.
WT called in to the show on Wednesday.
He just said something about that for the Granddaddy show.
Yes, he and Corey called in, and we obviously
he defended me though. I need evidence of this. I'm gonna have to go back and find it.
Maybe he needs to call in again and talk to us on Wednesday nights. But all right, sir, you are excused. Thanks for hanging out with us for so long tonight.
Thanks for having me. War Eagle.
All right, War Eagle. All right, folks, you're stuck with me for the rest of the evening. We won't stay on too much longer. Normally we get out of here right at 10. But we had a long episode. But I do want to give you guys an opportunity for some Q&A. There were certainly a lot of big topics that we talked about in there, and maybe you guys even have some questions. I know that last part of the basketball segment was a little bit more raw and real and frankly forward in some of the things that we were saying. But I hope you understand that Austin and I have done a lot of investigating and talking and thinking about how to approach this. And we didn't just go into that haphazardly, but certainly we can talk about that some more. Post some comments, some questions. I'll spend a little bit more time here with you in our live Q&A portion, but you know the drill. While you're gearing up for that, please make sure you smash the like button, all that good stuff. Subscribe and follow if you haven't. But here is upcoming stuff for you all for the week ahead. And I am ready to have kind of a normal-ish week. Here we go. Next up, scheduled live streams for you. Post-game basketball. Y'all know the drill. Auburn versus LSU this Wednesday evening. We're on a Wednesday evening finally. But that means that we have conflicts of interest with our schedule. No Auburn Family night this week because the game starts at 7 Eastern time. It'll be over at 9. So even no matter what time we start Auburn Family night, it just is one of those weird times. It doesn't make sense to do one. We will do a post-game show immediately after, which would probably be like 9:15. Join us for that. If you missed that one, but even if you had missed it, you should join us for this one. Auburn versus LSU, but Auburn versus Ole Miss this Saturday. We'll do a post-game show for that as well. And then, of course, we'll be back next Sunday with episode 112 of the Auburn Experience podcast. Plenty of other things, lots of content that we gathered and videos to be made for swimming and diving, for gymnastics, more snow pics, more college game day videos and content. If you're not following, if you're not subscribing, you're missing out. So please do us a favor by doing that. All right. Live Q&A time here. Let's jump into this. And I can kind of save a few of y'all's comments. I may go back and do some of those that I say, but let's see what you guys are saying here. WT says, I had no idea that there was an issue around the Tennessee game until you brought it up tonight. Well, let me address that a little bit here, because I think some comments were maybe explained there. So Brian, it's with the fans. I'm not going to do it all over again, just for the sake of people who are already here. I hope you understand, but certainly you can go back and listen to it. Long story short, a mob kind of took over with the student ticketing thing, and some people were injured, and people started to blame Auburn, and that was really premature and frankly inappropriate and didn't really do anything. And so it kind of became like became a bad scar on the day that was building towards a great day in Auburn. But obviously I can talk about different elements of it again, but I don't want to go back through it again. Let's see here. There was another couple comments made about that. This is from Robert, who said earlier, how many of these negative comments about the mob situation ahead of college game day are coming from folks outside the Auburn family? Agree that the few that caused the problem need to be held accountable? No, Robert, for the most part, especially very quickly after it, because our video for us, viral may be a relative term to people, but for us, it went viral for our reach and stuff. I had news organizations, legitimate, news stations asking for permission to use it and stuff. And ours wasn't even the bad one. It just showed them running up ahead because I kind of ran alongside and got the footage for you all. But what happened, especially probably like, 3 to 4 hours after, from that time on, it was all Auburn folks pretty much. And what takes over in this is a concern for safety, and that's rightfully so. But we jump to these conclusions and start saying all these things and putting stuff out there that's not necessary. There's no facts to prove that it's true, and it's making yourself look bad, Auburn look bad, the students that weren't involved look bad. What happened was tragic. What happened was unnecessary. I hope they figure out who is responsible for it, because they are potentially going to ruin the future of that particular thing. So that's kind of where we probably need to leave it at. But the negative comments were coming from Auburn people mainly to start with, certainly from that. All right, a couple other things here. Let me go back through some of the save stuff, and then I'll come back to some of your comments that you're putting right now. Let's see here. WT says, I make sure to wear the War Dustbusters shirt for all basketball home games to offset Austin's hex. Y'all are never going to let that one die on him, are you? Brian is, of course, from the great white north and loves hearing Southerners talk about snow. It is precious. I get it, but we're still going to revel in it a little bit. Robert also said Auburn and Lee County had 12 to 16 inches of snow in February of 1973. Where'd you get that from? But that's kind of cool. I was a senior at Smith's Station. For those of you who don't know, it's about, an hour, 45 minutes to an hour east of Auburn, east-ish. And your brother was an engineering student at Auburn. So there you go. It's happened before. So Brian, I know you're kind of joking here, but legitimately, having personally experienced it, the roads iced over very bad. I was surprised actually how much melted off enough to make the roads passable the day after, but there were some really bad sections. And so it became a hazard. And I began to ask the question too, as the week progressed and having been there for the melting away stuff, why are we staying out? I actually knew someone directly who was a teacher at Opelika school. Why are y'all not going back to school? And they said, no, they went and checked themselves. Some teachers had that parking lots, roads, bridges were still pretty dangerous for things like school buses to come through. So it becomes one of those things for us. We're not prepared. For you all up in the north. Y'all certainly are a little bit more prepared for all of those things. We don't handle it as well. WT said earlier, 11 quad one wins this season. Isn't that right? Isn't that the best in SEC history? I don't know that for 100% fact, but I'll take it. I will certainly take it. And then you brought this up a little bit earlier and Austin did. So there you go. Unbeaten Lake said, 2019, is this our best team of all time? 2023, is this our best team of all time? 2025, is this our best team of all time? The barriers continue to go down. You know what makes it melt? The traffic. Yeah, we don't know what to do, Brian. You know this. When snow happens, we just don't know what to do. WT, going back to the issue with the students, people need to be held responsible for what they put on social media. Well, and here's the thing. They're not going to be. That's the beauty and the problem with social media. Anything can be shared, and there's a lot of good that comes with that. But I'll be honest with you. Probably shouldn't say what I'm thinking right now. There is a certain demographic of people that really sometimes on a certain social media platform get very involved in the social media comment sections and just take things at face value. I probably don't know to go any further than that. There's a rampant problem with people just perpetuating something and just going on and on about things and not really looking in to see if things were true. It was just bad. It was very bad. All right. I'm being late, getting back to basketball. I hope we don't sleepwalk into LSU and Ole Miss. There is going to be a little bit of that kind of die off of the energy and hype and craziness of this week. And certainly going on the road for 2 games in a row is going to be pretty tough in the SEC this year, regardless, but certainly that could be at play. Yeah, still some talk about snow and how we handle it in the South. Okay, we are way over our normal time. I can take some final questions, comments, anything about the show, obviously directed at Auburn if you'd like, or hopefully so. Reminders, no Auburn Family Night this week. There's a basketball game during our normal times, but we will do a post-game show, so you kind of get something at least. So make sure that you remember that for the schedule this upcoming week. Oh, Corey, don't do that to us. Don't do it to us. Do not say LSU is going to be a breeze. It might be, but I ain't going to. No, don't do that to us. All right. I think we've covered it all. I'm trying to think. One thing that we didn't talk about during the show is that our Eagle Aria was flown at the Philadelphia Eagles game. And certainly that's a pretty cool thing. So we might mention it next week since there's been a streak of us forgetting, not having time for certain topics. If y'all haven't noticed, our goal used to be we get out of here in just over 30 minutes. It's been lately doing 45 minutes of a show. This week was almost an hour. And granted, there was a lot to talk about. But I hope it's still great, even though the length is increasing. Yeah, Austin knows you'll all do it in love, and he loves to engage with y'all on it. He wouldn't if he didn't enjoy it a little bit. Okay, we're going to call it a show. We're going to call it an evening. Thank y'all so much for tuning in, hanging out, whether you watch live or on the replay. As always, smash the like button, subscribe, all of those things. Thank you so much for being part of our little family within the Auburn family and spending some time with us. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle.